Hi, this is Meredith Lego, and I'm doing a series of channeled teachings from Ascended Master Hilarion. And again, channeling is the process of basically downloading or connecting energetically with basically consciousness that is sort of outside of our dimensional plane. And I've basically started the process of doing this with a being called Ascended Master Hilarion back in 2018, and started actually taking more of an interest in sort of transcribing it in 19 and 20 and through today. Um, I want to do this video as a continuation on the concept of polarity. And the last video that I published, let me see what I called it, was Infinity, the Polarity Manifesting Engine. So this was the last video that I did on the concept of polarity as he taught it to me. And I'm going to go on with another, I guess you could say, teaching around that subject. Now, the last one was pretty detailed because I ended up sharing basically a whole, I guess you could say, construct that he set up for me of how energy basically flows through basically a black hole, if you will. Kind of like out in the universe, you've got black holes that kind of suck energy in, and a white hole, which is actually on the other side of that. And that makes sense because we live in a polarized binary universe. How that process actually facilitates us being able to essentially have, like, manifest an experience, and then essentially experience it, process that experience, and then sort of reintegrate the learning back in. But it occurs through basically an electric and a magnetic charge that happens as differential within this sort of black hole, white hole situation. And I actually showed a visual that appears in a book that I published with many of the teachings that I'm going over now back in early 2021. I want to say it was in February 2021 that I published it, but this would have been content that I probably channeled in 2020. And so I kind of printed off a page out of the book so you could probably see it a little bit easier. But essentially, this is the image that I was actually shown, if I can get it straight, while I was meditating. And as you can see, it's basically an image of a torus field, if you will. And it's sort of an energetic field that basically gets constructed between the kind of electrical and magnetic charges around objects. And humans actually, or actually any animals on our planet as well, is going to have a similar field around our bodies, and it emanates up out of our heads. So it would kind of be going up around our heads, and that center point is actually positioned in the heart center within a human. And what helps kind of generate the electromagnetic field is the heart and the brain. So that's the actual action that's happening. Now, what he showed me is the fact that one side of the kind of torus field is more magnetic polarity, and he referred to it as feminine energy in the sense that it sort of sucks in, or it's magnetic and pulling in, and is more matter. And the other side of the field is more positive energy, or electrical energy, is considered male, not the gender, but more male in the sense that it pushes energy out and starts to take action on energy. So he also referred to this as antimatter. So I'm not sure how the matter antimatter comes in. He didn't necessarily explain it, and I didn't think to ask in the moment. But I think it's also just setting up the concept of opposites. And then the final point is that center point he referred to as a 0 point, the point of balance, or the point of no time. So I guess when we're sort of in that 0 point, we literally can experience reality without the concept of time. So that was essentially the last video that I unpacked a little bit more. And one thing I wanted to mention as well is that when he first showed me that original image, I heard the word very clearly, the invisible road. And he actually used that term to describe how basically energy moves through the torus field between sort of the magnetically and electrically charged fields. But in fact, it's actually moving through the field almost like a figure eight in an infinity pattern. And as a result, energy is constantly moving. It never stops. It's constantly in motion through infinity, so to speak. And he basically said at the same time, this is, you're going to see this play out in the smallest quantum objects all the way up to the size of galaxies. So galaxies, as well as sort of atoms, have the same sort of energetic field that's moving around them, and they're sort of creating energy and experiencing energy as it kind of gets pushed and pulled through the electrical and magnetic charges. And when he talked about that, he kind of wrapped it up by saying, as above, so below. And so that brought up the question for me, which I want to go into now, which is, how does the infinity engine, as he kind of described it in that last teaching, so how does this infinity engine interact with the law of attraction and the principle of correspondence? So let me explain those two things first. These are both essentially Hermetic Laws. And if you haven't, I encourage you to kind of do a little research on Hermetic Laws that I believe were founded by Hermes. It's been a while since I looked at them, but I could be wrong. So, but it seems like it would be given the name. But the law of attraction is simply the belief, or the law that basically says, based upon like giving out certain energy, positive or negative energy, you're going to get back positive or negative energy or experiences. So that would kind of be similar to the law of cause and effect. And then the second is the principle of correspondence, which actually is the concept of as above, so below, or so below, as above. As within, so without, as without, so within. So the idea, again, that you're going to see kind of laws of the universe sort of play out at all different levels of a fractalization of source. So again, I asked him, how does the infinity engine that you showed me in that massive vision that you gave me basically interact with the law of attraction and the principle of correspondence? The answer was, the infinity loop, by nature of the flow of energy, means there is no time. So the concept of just infinity, and I think, in kind of everyday world, so to speak, we kind of think of infinity as being endless. So the infinity loop, by nature of the flow of energy, means there is no time. All energy flows through the circles and back to the center. There is a connection with the law of magnetism. For example, when you have a negative emotion or thought, the energy leaves from your being. The lower vibrating energy will go out and be attracted to a vibrational rate of the originator. In other words, like attracts like. So I think what he's saying here is that, like, if you have a certain emotion or thought, and let's just, in this example, he's bringing up a negative energy, that sort of vibrational frequency and intention will sort of go out into the universe. You kind of put it out into the quantum field, and then essentially you've got sort of a certain signature, I guess, and you sort of attract that back to you, almost like trying to go back to chemistry, where you've got sort of negative let's say electrons being attracted to negative electrons. That's the way I'm interpreting it. So in other words, like attracts like. The timing of the return of energy depends on the spirituality of the soul and or the decision of a master teacher who provides an opportunity for learning. It depends on the size of the infinity loop and the soul's learning intentions. So that's a little bit more cryptic. And so in this particular case, let me kind of bring this visual back up. So you've got basically a construct in which energy is constantly circulating in an infinity pattern, if you will. kind of being pushed and pulled through magnetic and energetic principles or laws. And let's say as the originator of the energy, in the case of a human, it's from the heart center. So it's going to be sort of the intention and the heart that kind of pushes out the energy. Let's say there's a certain energetic frequency that goes out. It's going to be like manifested. You're going to put that energy out there. It could be actioned. You have sort of an experience of that energy. You process the experience, you sort of reintegrate it back in, but ultimately you're going to have something mirrored back to you. And I encourage you to watch the videos on mirroring if you haven't. So when you put an energy out there, it's going to be mirrored back to you. And essentially that could be part of the integration process. So obviously if, let's say if my dog bites me, or let's say, this is probably more popular, let's say, when you have young kids, they don't quite know yet how to manage their emotions. So if one lashes out at another, let's say there's two siblings and they fight, you might have another one sort of fight back. And that's the process of, okay, I have an emotion, I'm mad, I have an experience, I kind of push my sibling, and they push back, and I'm sort of reintegrating that experience of what happened. So that's essentially what he's happening. But what he also says is that, so again, the energy, that vibrating energy will sort of go out and be attracted, and you're kind of going to get back in a similar vibrational frequency that matches the source of the originating energy. So that's mirroring. And then he says basically the timing of the return of that energy depends upon the spirituality of the soul and the decision of a master teacher who provides an opportunity for learning. It depends on the size of the infinity loop and the soul's learning intention. So what I think this implies, and based upon the visual that I was given, is that you can kind of see in this picture, it's a pretty good representation of it, that you have a torus field of energy, and there's sort of many loops that kind of go out and out and out and out. And basically, when you have a certain, let's say, intention and vibrational frequency that goes with that, you can have something like a sort of a return of that energy that comes back very quickly, let's say within minutes. Say I'm thinking a negative thought, and then all of a sudden I stub my toe. That could be, something that could be relatively quickly. But also, the size of the loop could be much larger in time in the holographic simulation that we're in. So let's say I have a whole collective consciousness of beings in humanity sort of have a war. Let's take World War II, for example. There's a lot of negative energy that could, gets pushed out. We ultimately have experienced it. We sort of go through the experience, we learn about it, we integrate it back in, but eventually, the beings who went through World War II are probably going to have to sort of have another experience again, and that gets into the concept of karma. So it could be, centuries before that energy circles back around to those individual souls. So what he's saying is that the timing of the kind of attraction back of that energy sort of depends upon, the size of the, what did he say? It's the size of the infinity loop under which this sort of learning scenario is being set up. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's just another extension of the lesson that essentially was set up last time in that video that was called Polarity, I think it was called, hold on, let me look it up, Infinity, the Polarity Manifesting Engine. So I'll try and include the link to that one video in the comment section. So if you, if you find this content enjoyable or you're kind of valuing the learning, I encourage you to subscribe and sign up for alerts so you can see when I post more content, and share it with friends, share it with anybody who you think might resonate with learning the same way that I have. And with that, I will sign off. Have a great day. Bye.